I really thought he would wind up going right around the Bears' turn, and I was actually surprised that the Bears didn't take him. I thought going into the draft, my own private feeling was that I thought he was going to be a Chicago Bear.
What did you think, just real quick, general thoughts? Everybody sort of was anticipating some craziness. Yurko was calling for it yesterday, and boy, did we get it. That was a wild round one, wasn't it?
You know, again, I think now I understand what all the smoke signals were. Not smoke signals, all the confusion about what Houston was doing, because there were people who thought that they would go C.J. Stroud, and there were people who thought they would go defense. I was on the phone with the organization at 5 o'clock. I was told they were going defense with the first pick. And so I see these odds going nuts on C.J. Stroud in Vegas. And I'm going, wait. Like, I'm talking to people, like, what's going on here? It was really confusing for me to figure out how is everybody thinking that C.J. Stroud's going 2, which he did go, when I'm being told they're going defense at 2. And so what happened was they were able to get into a position where they knew they were going to go and get both those players. So they announced C.J. Stroud, and then they announced the defensive player.
That was their plan all along. Pretty bold move by Caserio. Did you anticipate Jalen Carter falling as far as he did? And did you hear that a lot of teams were just crossing him off? Okay, yes?
Well, I really thought he would wind up going right around the Bears' turn, and I was actually surprised that the Bears didn't take him. I thought going into the draft, my own private feeling was that I thought he was going to be a Chicago Bear. You know, I felt like they had done a lot of work on him. I felt like they were comfortable with the kind of guy he was, and they decided to trade with Philadelphia. You know, they have to know that Philadelphia is coming up for him or doing something like that, and they have to know that they're going to 10 to be comfortable and want to take Darnell Wright. Yeah, no, I was not surprised by that.
Is that the best case scenario, though, for Jalen Carter?
The Eagles?
Going to the Eagles, a team that's going to compete right away with a veteran defensive front?
Yeah, you know, the Eagles is another thing that played with my mind, and I think there's a point here, a lesson, in that these things change. Like, in talking to the Eagles leading up to the draft, I don't believe, and I think that they were inclined to go draft Jalen Carter. But what happens is you go through this, it's like teams change their minds on things. And on Friday, or yesterday, Thursday, Friday, lose track of this, Jalen Carter and his agent, Drew Rosenhaus, were on the phone all day with the Eagles. And literally, Jalen Carter was talking to the coaches in their building, you know, going through it again, pleading with them. I'm telling you, you won't regret this. And in the end, I think the Eagles went from kind of leaning out on him to going in on him, to the point where they traded up one spot to get him. Again, I really thought he was going to go right in the 9 range, but I thought it was going to be Chicago. He goes in the 9 range, but it's to Philadelphia, who I thought initially was not inclined to draft him. But these things change. It's like the defense-offense thing. You know, like I said, I thought about the whole thing coming back to the hotel. I'm like, wow, I was convinced, because I'd been told that the Texans were going defensive 2, and they didn't. And I had been convinced that the Eagles weren't going to go Jalen Carter, and then these things change. Yeah. They're fluid.
Were the Eagles a real winner for you last night, by the way, with what they ended up getting in those two defensive guys? Well,
yeah, I mean, you know, who would think that they'd come with 2 more Georgia guys? I mean, They're the Philadelphia Bulldogs right now. I mean, they might as well fire Nick Sirianni and hire Kirby Smart to coach the team, right? I mean, what the heck? So I was not. I wouldn't have thought that Nolan Smith would get their spot at where they were, but he did, and good for them. And they pick up a guy that they did not expect to be on the board then.
What do you make of Will Levis falling out of the first round?
Well, you know, here's the deal. You know, we could talk about all the things we want. The fact of the matter is there only were a certain number of teams that were going to go quarterback in round 1. And his primary landing spots were Houston and Indianapolis. Mm-hmm. And Houston went C.J. Stroud, and Indianapolis went for Anthony Richardson. And once that happened, the slide was on.
How long does he wait?
Musical chairs.
How long does he wait today?
I think we'll go in the top half of the second round tonight, I think. But I don't think he'll wait long. But, you know, I was on the weekend getting texts about Vegas going nuts and Will Levis going too. You know, apparently there was some article on Reddit or something like that.
Yes.
Everyone had said.
Right.
betting money on Will. I'm like, 2? Like, I never heard that. Like, everybody was focused in on him at 4. There was a lot of smoke there, which didn't happen. 2? I'm like, 2? No. But apparently a lot of people, unfortunately, lost money with that.
Yeah. Well, the Bears have to be happy. They at least get something they absolutely needed, which was an offensive tackle to help, the quarterback, Justin Fields.
And they have all the picks next year, right? So, Carolina needs Bryce Young to be good right away, or the Bears benefit from that because they have Carolina's number 1 next year. They have the added 2s. Let's see what they could do with them. They have DJ Moore. So, yeah, I mean, they gave up the 1, and they got back a lot of compensation, and it's up to the Bears to go take advantage of it now, and let's see if they can do that.
Yeah, well, hopefully they can. Detroit, they let a running back go in free agency. They signed one that was going to be less expensive, and then they draft one.
Well, they could have drafted Bijan, though. Didn't that seem silly, Adam?
No.
Were you surprised by that?
No. Well, they traded out of 6 to 12, and they didn't get back all that much, but there were some people that had Jahmyr Gibbs on a similar grade to Bijan Robinson, number 1. But I don't think anybody, there was a real question as to where Bijan Robinson would go, and I was thinking, people thought Atlanta wanted to trade back. They were trying to trade back, and then they just stayed where they were, and they took him there. I think they wanted to trade back and take him. Didn't work out, so they just didn't wait. Took him where they did. And like I said, there were some people that really liked Jahmyr Gibbs. I still think that was higher than I expected him to go. I think it was higher than most everybody expected him to go, including himself. But, that's the beauty of the draft. If you have a conviction on a guy and you feel good about a guy and you take him at 12 as opposed to 22 or whatever it is, and that's what it is, right? Like, if you believe in a guy, like I'm looking at the scroll on ESPN last night of the picks, and I see that, like, who would have thought that the cornerback that Washington took at 16 ahead of Christian Gonzalez.
Right, ahead of Gonzalez, yeah.
I'm like, wow. And I had heard so many good things about him during the process. But everybody had Gonzalez in the mocks. I'm trying to blank the guy's name right now. I can't even believe it.
It's
Mosley?
Mosley. It's Emmanuel Mosley, right? Is that right?
No, Emmanuel Mosley's in the league. It's 16.
Emmanuel Mosley's already in the league. I'm blanking on it too, but I know who you're exactly.
Jack Campbell.
No. Washington, the corner.
No.
Washington, the corner.
Washington picked cornerback. So, nobody had him higher, but, in the weeks
Emmanuel Forbes, Adam.
Emmanuel Forbes. Emmanuel Moya.
Yeah.
Emmanuel Forbes.
Yeah.
There were a lot of teams that really liked him. And so, I heard some great things about him, but you didn't hear Christian Gonzalez ahead of Emmanuel Forbes in many places, or Emmanuel Forbes ahead of Christian Gonzalez, but there it was. Forbes went ahead of Gonzalez by 1 pick.
That's why it does get crazy, and it's fun. You're right. Adam Schefter for a few more minutes, joining Carmen and Yurko on ESPN 1000 and the ESPN Chicago app. Just a couple other things, too. Big picture NFL stuff. Not only was the draft yesterday, but, the huge news on Lamar Jackson. Did you kind of have a sense that was always going to get done? Did you think maybe it would be after the draft?
Yeah, no. I thought it would get done. Okay. I did not think it would get done on the day of the draft, right before it kicks off. That seemed like it just seemed sudden, but it was weird because there was a lot of silence from everybody who asked about it in the days leading up to it, and I could never get any answers or information. I thought it was very peculiar. Like, I'm like, well, this is weird. Like, not hearing back from these people. Like, what's the deal? And sometimes you get a little sense that something's going on, and then Jameson Hensley from ESPN Nation tweeted out good news for the Ravens yesterday. And then the deal comes in, and the announcement is made an hour later.
There you go. This thing is really turned into a spectacle. Yurko and I were saying. Just the sights and scenes, and we're here in KC, and we were kind of amongst the people watching. There's just NFL fans everywhere. What a time to be a Chiefs fan! This town is just got to be going crazy with Mahomes and everything they have. So this is really something. It looked incredible on TV for sure.
Yeah, no, it honestly. I happened to see the commissioner this morning in the hotel.
Yeah.
And we were talking, and hold on one second, guys. Hold on.
Yeah, no problem. This is what we're working on.
I love it. Just like the old days.
Something is a shake at the stick. Let's go live.
Yeah, I got to talk to you. So basically, I said, I can't believe how big I've been doing this for over 30 years. Like, it used to be in the Radio City Music Hall or that theater in Chicago, remember, with 1,000 people. And it's just like last night it was hundreds of thousands, and it was so loud. It was like a concert. It was like I'm sitting next to Mort. I couldn't hear Mort next to me.
It's incredible. It was awesome. Adam, you're the best. Thanks, man. We love you.
Guys, have a great day.
Thanks for giving us a few minutes.
Adam.
Have a good weekend.